Commander Jasmine Rodriguez stood at the main viewport of the Deep Space Monitoring Station Hawking, watching the endless dance of stars against the void. 20 years of service in the United Earth Space Force hadn't prepared her for this moment. The signal was unlike anything they'd ever detected before, clearly artificial, but operating on principles that defied conventional physics. "Commander, the signal's getting stronger," Lieutenant Rahul Kapoor called from his station. His dark eyes were fixed on the holographic display, fingers dancing across the sensor controls. "Whatever's out there, it's getting closer." "Any response to our greeting package?" Jasmine asked, though she already knew the answer. They'd been broadcasting Earth's standard first contact message for the past 12 hours without success. "Nothing yet, but," Rahul's voice cut off as new data flooded his screen. "Movement detected. Something's decelerating from FTL, it's big, Commander." The vessel that emerged from what appeared to be a ripple in spacetime took Jasmine's breath away. It was beautiful, all sweeping curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to shift colors as it moved. The alien ship was easily 3 times the size of their station, yet it moved with an impossible grace. "Multiple energy signatures," Senior Technical Officer Wei Chang reported, his usually steady voice trembling slightly. "Their tech is. I can't even begin to understand some of these readings." The alien vessel came to a stop 5,000 kilometers from the station, close enough for detailed observation but far enough to avoid any possibility of collision. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, every screen in the command center lit up with new data. "They're responding to our message," Rahul announced. It's perfect English. They've apparently been studying our broadcasts for months." The message that appeared on the main screen was simple: "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Viridian Collective. We come seeking knowledge and understanding, but we must first establish safety protocols. Our scans indicate your species possesses concerning physical capabilities. Please confirm you will accept our containment procedures for initial contact." Jasmine felt a mix of confusion and amusement. They were afraid of us? "Put me through," she ordered, straightening her uniform. "This is Commander Jasmine Rodriguez of the United Earth Space Force. We welcome peaceful contact and will comply with reasonable safety measures. May I ask what concerns you about our physical capabilities?" The response came quickly: "Commander Rodriguez, our species evolved on a low-gravity world. Our bodies are adapted for efficiency rather than strength. According to our analysis, the average human possesses physical strength approximately 5 times greater than our strongest individuals. This presents significant safety concerns." Over the next several hours, a careful dance of diplomacy unfolded. The Viridians insisted on using robotic proxies for initial face-to-face meetings, and when their ambassador finally appeared on the station's main screen, Jasmine understood why. Ambassador Lyra was tall and impossibly slender, with translucent skin that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescence. She moved with ethereal grace but appeared so fragile that a strong handshake might shatter her. "We have watched your species for some time," Lyra explained, her synthesized voice carrying notes of both fear and fascination. "Your physical resilience is remarkable. You survive conditions that would kill us instantly. You lift weights that would crush our bones. Yet you also create art of stunning beauty and show great capacity for gentleness. You are an enigma to us." "With respect, Ambassador," Jasmine replied, choosing her words carefully, "strength doesn't define character. Humanity learned that lesson through our own history. We would welcome the opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of your trust." The conversation continued well into Earth's night cycle. The Viridians shared glimpses of their civilization, a society built on intellectual achievement and artistic expression, spanning dozens of worlds but vulnerable to stronger species. They had developed incredible technology to compensate for their physical limitations, but lived in constant fear of what they called heavy worlders. As the first contact protocols were established, Jasmine couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had always imagined their first alien encounter would involve beings of godlike power and ability. Instead, they found themselves cast in that role, facing the challenge of proving that physical strength could coexist with peace. Before ending the initial transmission, Ambassador Lyra made a final observation that would echo through human history. Your species carries within it both what we fear most and what we hope to become, the power to destroy matched with the choice to protect. We pray we have chosen wisely in revealing ourselves to you. As the command center crew began their long night of processing this historic encounter, Jasmine gazed out at the Viridian vessel, its hull still shifting through impossible colors. Humanity's place in the galaxy would be defined not by their strength, but by how they chose to use it. It was a responsibility she felt in her bones, and one she swore they would not take lightly. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and with it came the challenge of proving that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their muscles or bones, but in their capacity for compassion and their willingness to protect those who needed it most. Admiral Marcus Torres rubbed his temples as he reviewed the latest incident report. Another diplomatic meeting had ended in panic when a human delegate accidentally moved too quickly, causing 3 Viridian representatives to trigger their emergency teleporters. 6 months into first contact, and they were still struggling with the basics. "You wanted to see me, sir." First Lieutenant Zara Hassan stood in the doorway of his office aboard the newly constructed Unity station. Her background in xenoanthropology had made her an invaluable part of the contact team. "Come in, Lieutenant. We need to discuss the Centauri conference situation." He gestured to a chair designed to accommodate both human and Viridian physiology. "Our allies are losing confidence in these joint sessions." Zara nodded, her dark eyes thoughtful. "The Viridians' fear response is deeply ingrained, Admiral. Millions of years of evolution on a low-gravity world have hardwired them to perceive any fast-moving object as a threat. But I think I might have a solution." She activated her holopad, displaying footage from the Viridian cultural archives they'd been granted access to. "Look at their children. They use these." The image showed young Viridians wearing what appeared to be gossamer-thin suits that sparkled with energy fields. "Protective gear." Torres leaned forward. "Better. They're called Embrace Shields. They don't just protect, they provide psychological comfort. The Viridians developed them to help their young overcome anxiety about physical contact. With some modifications." Before she could finish, the station's alert system pulsed with a soft blue light, the signal for an incoming Viridian transmission. The elegant form of High Chancellor Naira appeared on the main screen, her crystalline features set in what Torres had learned to recognize as their expression of grave concern. "Admiral Torres, Lieutenant Hassan," Naira's translated voice carried unnaturally perfect diction. "We have received disturbing information. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity in the Arcturus sector. We believe we are not the only species watching humanity." Torres straightened in his chair. "What kind of activity?" "Ships belonging to the Kryvax Empire. They are." Naira paused, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to darker hues. "They are what you might call heavy worlders like yourselves, but they lack your restraint. They have dominated and enslaved 3 species in the past century alone." Zara's hand tightened on her holopad. "They're coming to test us, aren't they?" "Yes. Our analysts believe they see our communication with Earth as a sign of weakness. They will likely attempt to make an example of us, to demonstrate their superiority over soft species who would ally with newcomers." Torres felt a familiar weight settle onto his shoulders, the same weight he'd carried through the resource wars on Earth. "High Chancellor, I need you to be direct with me. Are you asking for our help?" Naira's form shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. "We cannot ask what we fear to receive, Admiral. My people are still uncertain about placing our trust in humanity's strength. Yet we find ourselves trapped between 2 powerful species, and at least one of them has proven its capacity for cruelty. Then let us prove our capacity for protection instead." Zara stepped forward. "High Chancellor, What if we could demonstrate our commitment to peace while simultaneously showing we can defend our allies? The embrace shields your people use, we could adapt that technology for diplomatic functions, create a visible symbol of trust between our species. For the first time, Naira's patterns shifted to warmer colors. An interesting proposal, Lieutenant. But it would require sharing sensitive technology, which we would counter by sharing our advances in materials science, Torres added, catching Zara's vision. A mutual exchange. Show that trust goes both ways. The conversation stretched for hours, delving into technical specifications and diplomatic protocols. By the time Naira's transmission ended, both sides had agreed to an unprecedented exchange program. Human engineers would work with Viridian scientists to develop new protection systems, while Viridian cultural experts would help humans better understand their future allies. As they left the Admiral's office, Zara paused. "Sir, do you think it will be enough? The Kryvacs sound like they're spoiling for a fight." Torres smiled grimly. "Then we'll show them something they've never seen before, a strong species that chooses to be gentle, until gentleness is no longer an option." Over the next weeks, Unity Station transformed into a hub of cultural and technological exchange. Human engineers marveled at the elegant efficiency of Viridian design, while Viridian scientists gradually overcame their fear enough to study human physical capabilities up close. The Embrace Shield project progressed rapidly, combining Viridian energy field technology with human materials science to create something entirely new. But beneath the surface of this budding cooperation, tension continued to build. The Kryvac ships moved closer, their intentions becoming clearer with each passing day. They were coming to test humanity's resolve, to see if these newcomers to the galactic stage would stand with their physically weaker allies or step aside. As Torres watched another successful test of the new shield technology, he couldn't help but wonder if they were running out of time. The Viridians were beginning to trust them, yes, but would that trust survive its first real challenge? And when the Kryvacs finally made their move, would humanity's dedication to peace be seen as strength or weakness? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would change the balance of power in this sector of space forever. The first attack came without warning. A Viridian research outpost in the Arcturus sector went dark, its quantum communication array silenced mid-transmission. Hours later, the Kryvax Empire's demands arrived at both Earth and the Viridian Collective: sever all diplomatic ties, or watch more outposts fall. Captain Naomi Chen of the UES Defender stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The Kryvax warship ahead of them was massive, its hull covered in weapon ports and battle scars. They had escorted 3 Viridian supply ships away from their intended course, effectively cutting off resources to the neighboring colony. "They're hailing us, Captain," Lieutenant James O'Connor reported from communications. "Audio only. Let's hear what they have to say." Naomi's voice remained steady, though her hands clenched behind her back. The voice that filled the bridge was deep and gravelly, filled with contempt. "Human vessel, this is Commander Kraz of the Kryvax Empire. You are interfering in Imperial business. Remove yourself, or be removed." Naomi's response was measured but firm. "Commander Kraz, those supply ships are under Earth's protection. Your actions constitute an act of piracy against our allies. Stand down and return the vessels, or we will be forced to take action." Laughter rumbled through the speakers. "You think your single ship can stand against us? We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. The Viridians are weak. They deserve their fate. Stand aside, and perhaps we'll consider trading with Earth instead." "Sir," Tactical Officer Ravi Patel cut in quietly, "they're powering up weapons. Energy readings are off the charts." Naomi's mind raced through her options. The Defender was humanity's most advanced warship, but it had never been tested in actual combat against alien technology. The Kryvax vessel had size and experience on their side. But they had something else: arrogance. "All hands, battle stations," she ordered, then reopened the channel. "Commander Kraz, this is your final warning. Release the supply ships." The Kryvak's response came in the form of a plasma bolt that streaked past the defender's bow, a warning shot that illuminated space like a miniature sun. "They're trying to intimidate us," Ravi observed. "Then let's show them why that's a mistake." Tactical, deploy the Viridian shield modifications. Helm, execute attack pattern Delta 7. The defender's new hybrid shields sparkled to life, combining human resilience with Viridian energy efficiency. The ship moved with precision that belied its size, executing a series of maneuvers that brought it within the Kryvak's vessel's guard. What followed was a dance of technology and tactics. The Kryvak's ship was powerful but predictable, relying on brute force and overwhelming firepower. The defender, enhanced with Viridian innovations, proved more agile and adaptable. Each shot from the Kryvaks was met with a precise counterattack. "Their shields are weakening," Ravi reported after several tense minutes. "The hybrid penetrator beams are getting through." "Target their weapon systems only," Naomi ordered. "Show them we can win without destroying them." The precision strikes took their toll. One by one, the Kryvak's weapon ports went dark. Commander Kraz's fury was evident in his final transmission: "This isn't over, humans. You've made a grave mistake choosing the weak over the strong." As the Kryvak's ship retreated, leaving the supply vessels behind, Naomi turned to her crew. "Send word to Unity Station. The Kryvaks have shown their hand. They won't stop with one attempt." The news of the defenders' victory spread quickly through both human and Viridian space. For the Viridians, it was proof that their trust hadn't been misplaced. Humanity had stood their ground not just with strength, but with precision and restraint. High Chancellor Naira's response to the incident was transmitted across all Allied channels: "Today, humanity has demonstrated what we hoped but dared not assume, that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when and how to use power. The Kryvak's Empire's assault on our people will not go unanswered, and we do not stand alone." But even as celebrations began on both Earth and Viridian worlds, military analysts were predicting darker days ahead. The Kryvaks wouldn't accept this humiliation quietly. They would return with more ships, more weapons, and more determination to prove their supremacy. In her quarters that night, Captain Chen reviewed the battle footage, looking for ways to improve their tactics. The Kryvaks had underestimated them this time, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. The next encounter would be different, and it would take everything both species had learned from each other to survive what was coming. Unity Station began preparing for war, while diplomats worked desperately to prevent one. But in the end, it would be the combined strength of human courage and Viridian wisdom that would determine the fate of both their peoples. The Kryvak's assault fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metal and energy, 50 warships strong. Their target, Haven, the largest Viridian colony world in the sector. Billions of lives hung in the balance as the combined Earth-Viridian defense fleet moved to intercept. Admiral Kira Yamamoto stood aboard the flagship Excalibur, watching the tactical hologram with intensity. 20 human ships and 15 Viridian vessels formed their line of defense. The odds weren't good, but they had something the Kryvaks didn't expect: perfect integration. "Viridian ships in position," reported Fleet Commander Zena, her holographic form shimmering beside Kira. "Our shield harmonics are synchronized with your vessels." "Status of the planetary evacuation?" Kira asked, though she already knew they needed more time. 30% complete. "Our transport networks are at maximum capacity, but we need at least 3 more hours to move the most vulnerable populations to the sanctuary zones." The Kryvaks fleet's formation was aggressive, designed to overwhelm through sheer force. Their lead ships broadcasted their message across all frequencies: "Surrender the colony and withdraw, or be destroyed. This is your only warning." Kira opened a channel to all Allied ships. "This is Admiral Yamamoto. Today we defend not just a colony, but an ideal, that strength exists to protect, not dominate. Execute Battle Plan Aegis. For Haven. The space between the fleets erupted in a spectacular display of advanced warfare. Viridian ships, utilizing their superior sensor technology, provided targeting data to human vessels. Human ships, with their robust construction and powerful weapons, created openings for the more agile Viridian vessels to exploit. On the planet below, a different kind of battle unfolded. Lieutenant Takashi Watanabe led a team of human engineers working desperately to reinforce the colony's shield network. Beside them, Viridian technicians wove their energy field technology into Earth's defensive systems. Power spike in Sector 7, called out Viridian engineer Lyra. The grid won't hold under sustained bombardment. Takashi rushed to the control panel, his hands flying over the interface. Rerouting emergency power. Lyra, can you stabilize the harmonic resonance? A Kryvax breaker beam sliced through the upper atmosphere, testing the shields. The barrier held, but the strain was visible in the flickering energy patterns above. In space, the battle intensified. The Kryvax fleet's superior numbers began to tell, despite the Allies' sophisticated tactics. 3 human ships and 2 Viridian vessels had already fallen. But they had bloodied the enemy's nose, 7 Kryvax capital ships drifted powerless, and 3 more had been destroyed. Admiral, Zena's voice was urgent, they're concentrating fire on the orbital defense platforms. If those fall. I see it. Kira's mind raced through options. All ships, form up on the Excalibur. Prepare to execute Maneuver Phoenix. The Allied fleet moved as one, their formation shifting into what appeared to be a retreat. The Kryvax fleet pressed their advantage, exactly as Kira had predicted. Their ships surged forward, breaking their tight formation in their eagerness to claim victory. Now! Kira commanded. The Allied fleet split apart with precision, their synchronized movements creating a web of crossfire. Viridian energy weapons, modified with human targeting systems, struck with devastating accuracy. Human warships, their shields enhanced by Viridian technology, absorbed punishment that should have destroyed them. On Haven's surface, Takashi and Lyra's team achieved their own breakthrough. The hybrid shield network stabilized, its strength growing as the 2 technologies achieved perfect synchronization. Look at these readings, Lyra whispered in awe. The power output, it's beyond anything we've achieved before. The battle above reached its crescendo. The Kryvax fleet, caught in the Allies' trap, found their numerical advantage negated by superior tactics and technology. Ship after ship fell silent or retreated, until finally, the Kryvax flagship itself turned to flee. As the dust settled, Haven still stood. The combined fleet had suffered losses, but they had achieved what many thought impossible, they had turned back one of the most powerful military forces in known space. Admiral Yamamoto's message to Earth and the Viridian Collective was brief but historic: Haven is secure. The Kryvax fleet is in retreat. All Allied ships report victory. The cheers that erupted across Haven's surface and throughout the fleet marked more than just a military triumph. It was proof that when different species stood together, when strength was tempered by wisdom and technology enhanced by cooperation, even the mightiest aggressor could be defeated. But in the aftermath of battle, as rescue ships descended to assist the wounded and repair teams began their work, both humans and Viridians knew this was only the beginning. The Kryvax Empire would not accept this defeat easily. The Alliance would need to grow stronger, to prove again and again that their path, the path of protection rather than dominance, was the right one. The stars above Haven shone down on a changed world, where 2 vastly different species had learned to fight as one. The true test would not be in winning the war, but in winning the peace that followed. 1 year after the Battle of Haven, Unity Station had transformed. Where once there were separate sections for humans and Viridians, now both species moved freely together. In the central observatory, Admiral Torres and High Chancellor Naira stood side by side, watching the arrival of delegations from across the galaxy. Did you ever imagine this day would come? Naira asked, her bioluminescence pulsing with gentle blues and greens of contentment. When we first detected your broadcasts, we were terrified of your physical capabilities. Torres smiled, careful to keep his movements measured as he'd learned. And we were just as nervous about meeting a species so far advanced in energy manipulation and quantum physics. Now look at us, co-hosting the first Galactic Cooperative Summit. Below them, in the station's Grand Assembly Hall, representatives from 20 different species gathered. Some were massive like the humans, others delicate like the Viridians, and many fell somewhere in between. The Kryvak's defeat had sent shockwaves through the galactic community, challenging long-held assumptions about power and dominance. Lieutenant Zara Hassan, now Cultural Exchange Director, guided a group of young Viridian scientists through a demonstration of the latest hybrid technology. The fear that had once caused them to teleport away at sudden movements was gone, replaced by eager curiosity. The key breakthrough wasn't technological, she explained to the gathered crowd. It was psychological. We had to learn to see strength and fragility not as opposites, but as complementary traits. In the station's engineering bay, Chief Engineer Takashi Watanabe worked alongside Lyra, their successful shield integration at Haven having sparked a revolution in defensive systems. Their latest project, a network of protective satellites that could shield entire solar systems, had drawn attention from dozens of worlds. Another proposal from the Centauri Alliance, Lyra announced, reviewing their communications. They want to implement the SHIELD network across their entire territory. Takashi nodded, making a note on his holopad. Add them to the list. After what happened with the Kryvaks, everyone's realizing that cooperation beats confrontation. The Kryvaks empire itself had undergone dramatic changes. Their defeat at Haven had triggered internal reforms, as younger leaders questioned the old philosophy of dominance. While they weren't ready to join the cooperative, they had opened diplomatic channels and ceased their aggressive expansion. In orbit above Haven, the UES Defender and its Viridian counterpart, the Star Weaver, conducted joint training exercises. Captain Chen watched from her bridge as human and Viridian crews practiced complex maneuvers together, their ships moving in perfect harmony. Message from Earth Command, her communications officer announced. The Terraform project for New Providence has been approved. The Viridians will help us establish our first colony on a low-gravity world. The news brought a smile to Chen's face. It was fitting, just as the Viridians were learning to thrive in human environments, humans would learn to adapt to theirs. Each species growing stronger by understanding the other's perspective. Back on Unity Station, the summit's opening ceremony began. Admiral Torres and High Chancellor Naira took their places at the podium, their presence together a powerful symbol of what was possible. 10 years ago, Torres began, humanity looked to the stars and wondered if we were alone. Today, we stand as part of something greater than ourselves, a community of species who understand that true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. Naira's voice joined his, her bioluminescence brightening. We feared the physically strong, believing power could only corrupt. Humanity showed us another way, that the greatest power lies in choosing to protect rather than destroy. As they spoke, news arrived from deep space exploration teams, another signal, another potential species reaching out to the stars. But this time, there was no fear, only excitement. The alliance of humans and Viridians had created a new model for first contact, one based on mutual respect and understanding. In the years that followed, the cooperative would face new challenges and threats. But the lesson learned at Haven would endure, that the universe was vast enough for all kinds of strength, and that the truest measure of any species was not in their physical might or technological advancement, but in their capacity for growth, adaptation, and compassion. The stars above Unity Station seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope of this new era. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not through conquest or competition, but by proving that being strong didn't mean standing alone. In helping others overcome their fears, they had become something greater than they could have imagined, not just explorers or warriors, but guardians of a new way forward. As the summit continued below, Torres and Naira returned to their viewport, watching the endless dance of ships arriving and departing. Each vessel carried with it the promise of their alliance, that in this vast and sometimes frightening universe, no species need face the darkness alone. The fear that had once divided them had become the foundation of something remarkable, a future where strength and gentleness, power and wisdom, could not just coexist but flourish together.